Hello, everybody. Welcome to the cafe. I just turned it on. Anyway, hey Dragon King, hey Anubis. Well, hopefully you'll warm up a little bit with the new fireplace here. Poor little cold one. So used to the deserts. Anyway, um, today we are going to be reading Dante. Uh, I cannot pronounce the last name for that. For the Divine Comedy. So I am going to attempt to read all three books. The Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. However, first, I was just looking up it. I actually do need to read the introduction for it. So, I hope you all will bear with me with it. Yeah, I just unwrapped it about an hour ago. So, it is a fresh new book that I've been waiting to read. So, uh, with it, let's go ahead and jump into it. So, introduction. Nearly 700 years old, the Divine Comedy of Dante still impresses with its ambitious scope and vision. The three-volume work takes for its grand theme the experience of life after death and explores the possibilities in the three metaphysical settings alluded to in each book's title: Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. The poem's execution in terza rima, the rhyme scheme invented for it, has never been duplicated. It is acknowledged as the main epic poem of the main Italian literature and the foremost epic poem of the Christian religion. It has influenced writers ever since its publication. As the Argentinian writer Jorge Luis Borges says, "As soon as I open it tomorrow, I will discover things I did not see before. I know this book will go on beyond my waking life and beyond ours." Genesis. Dante was born in Florence, Italy, between May and June 1265. His ancestry was noteworthy, though his family was of modest means. Both his parents died when he was young. Dante was betrothed in marriage to Gemma di Manetto Donati and was married in 1285. Together, they had three children, yet Gemma was never the love of his life, and Dante never wrote about her. That prize he reserved for the object of his highest esteem, the beloved and unattainable Beatrice Fontinari. By the way, the game is not the book. They're two different things. You're always trying to feed me hair. Why? Love you, sweetie. I think you are.
I'm trying to go here, eat this, and gain power.
I am not Deku. I can't get it out. It's gone.
Is it enough cream?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sweetie.
No problem.
You can do it for me, Garlic. Dante began writing the Divine Comedy around 1306. After he had been convicted of barratry, the selling of offices, by a pro-papacy political faction, the Black Guelphs. The conviction occurred in Abstenia on January 27, 1302. and was based on trumped-up charges. It resulted in Dante, a member of the opposing anti-papacy White Guelphs, being stripped of his property and banished from his native Florence. Later, he was threatened with death should he ever return. Dante completed the comedy in 1321. Dante never returned to Florence. For the 2 decades following his banishment, he wandered through various towns in Italy, including Verona, Forli, Arezzo, Treviso, and Ravenna, where he died of malaria on September 13th, 1321. Organization. The 3 books of the Divine Comedy comprise 100 cantos, divided into 33 cantos each in Purgatorio and Paradiso, and 34 in Inferno. The additional canto in Inferno serves as an introduction to the entire Divine Comedy. Inferno, the first book, is set during April 1300, when Dante was 35. He was halfway through his biblically appointed life of 80 years and 10, and so fit the pronouncement in Canto 1 that he, Dante, the narrator, is midway upon the journey of our life. The year 1300 also marks the beginning of Dante's public service in Florence, from which he would be barred. Numbers are strongly symbolic in the Divine Comedy, particularly the number 3. The comedy's verse scheme, terza rima, is an 11-syllable or hedecasyllable line that falls into 3-line tercets that follow the interlinking rhyme scheme ABA, BCB, CDC, DEDE, or ABA, BCB, CDC, BED, EE. Dante invented this 3-line stanza to serve as the basic unit of his narrative. Each unit expresses a thought, the unit joined together in the larger canto through the interlinking rhyme scheme. The middle line rhymes with the outer 2 and the next stanza. The pattern continues throughout the poem. For those who are not familiar with how some of these poems work. The architecture of the worlds Dante writes about is equally elegant and complex, and also is shaped by the number 3. The world of Inferno divides into 3 Aristotelian classes of sin. 1. Sins of incontinence, due to the inability to control natural desire. 2. Sins of brutishness or violence, characterized by turning the naturally repulsive into something appealing. And 3. Sins of malice or fraud, such as wrong actions caused by abusing reason. Above these 3 divisions is the anteroom, home to the neutrals, who did nothing with their lives. After encountering the neutrals, Dante and Virgil are ferried across the river Acheron. Once on the other side, they begin their journey through the concentric circles of hell. The first circle is home to the virtuous heathen. The circles that follow are for incontinent sinners. The second is for the lascivious, the third for the gluttonous, the fourth for the avaricious and prodigal, the fifth for the wrathful, and the 6th for the heretics. Violent sinners follow. The 7th circle is home to those who committed violence against others, violence against themselves, and violence against nature and art. Next are the fraudulent sinners. The 8th circle is the realm of panderers and seducers, flatterers, simonists, diviners, barators, hypocrites, thieves, fraudulent counselors, markers of discord, and falsifiers. The 9th circle of sinners who are treacherous to kindred, country, and cause, guests and lords, and benefactors. The world of Purgatorio is a place of transition and hope. Unlike the eternities of heaven and hell, Purgatory is a place where inhabitants make acts of penance and gain absolution. Dante depicts Purgatory as a mountain. built when Satan was thrown from heaven to the center of the earth, and the earth closed behind him. Through purgatory, ordinary sinners such as Dante may climb back spiritually and physically to the garden that humans once enjoyed as Eden. Purgatory is divided into 3 parts defined by different types of love: perverse, defective, and excessive. Perverse love derives from the taking of delight in others' misfortunes and wrong acts. Inadequate love is practiced by those who half-heartedly pursue God's love. Excessive love is felt by those who exceed the limits for love of earthly pleasures. Additionally, purgatory is divided into 7 circles for purging the 7 deadly sins. The 10 heavens of Paradiso are arranged in order of increasing proximity to God. Architecturally, Paradise follows the Ptolemaic model, consisting of 7 concentric planetary spheres that circle the Earth. Dante ascends these 7 planets, each one providing different moral and spiritual meanings, from incontinency to temperance. Afterward, Dante encounters the souls in the stellar heaven, the angels in the primum mobile, and finally the heaven beyond space and time, where God, his angels, and the most blessed humans live. In the Divine Comedy, this is Dante's ultimate goal. Chronology. The events in the comedy take place over 7 days in April 1300. The night of which Dante loses himself in the forest is Good Friday. Dante and Virgil pass through the chasms of hell during Saturday. On Saturday evening, the two descend Satan's sides to the center of the earth. By dawn on Easter Sunday, they ascend to the foot of Mount Purgatory. The two traverse Purgatory, and Dante enters Paradise. The journey ends on Thursday evening. Literary Forum. Dante's Divine Comedy is, at its most basic level, a comedy. Dante called it a commedia because he wrote it in the low and middle styles, not the lofty verses of works such as Virgil's Aeneid. Further, Dante calls his work a comedy because it ends happily. It allows those who desire salvation to be saved. Cosmology. In the scheme of the Divine Comedy, the earth is the center of the universe. Hell is under the city of Jerusalem in the northern hemisphere. It appears as a vast, reversed cone reaching from near the earth's surface to the center, the farthest point from God. The sides of the cone form diminishing concentric circles where the different classes of the impertinent reside. Each level is set aside for a worse type of sinner. Jerusalem, where Christ was crucified, is the center of hell. Mount Purgatory is in the southern hemisphere. The highest heaven is beyond time and space. Theology. Much of the theology of the comedy derives from the teachings of theologian Thomas Aquinas. Hey Cubine, thank you for the raid. Welcome raiders. Divine Comedy. I'm going through the introduction and everything like that because sorry I didn't say that earlier, Dragon King. But it does explain a little bit. So yeah, Raiders, I am gonna be reading the Divine Comedy. I'm just going through the introduction at first. So it does tell a bit of the story. Someone actually asked me why is it called a comedy. Apparently, the author itself calls it a comedy because it ends happily. And it is based on Christianity and that, so it will hit on some of those points. And it allows those who desire salvation to be saved. So apparently that's why it is called a comedy. So we're actually at the theology part. Much of the theology of the comedy derives from the teachings of the theologian Thomas Aquinas. Born in 1225 near Naples, Italy, Aquinas studied at Benedictine monastery, then went on to study at the University of Naples, where he received his doctorate in theology. For the rest of his life, he lectured in philosophy and theology. His principal subject of study was Aristotle, whose philosophy was central to Aquinas' main work, Summa Theologica, where he completed by 1273. He died in Rome 1247. Through his studies of Aristotle, Aquinas confirmed the soundness of logical argument, using it to prove the existence of God and to investigate his nature. Aquinas fashioned a worldview that conveyed the divinity and truth of Christianity with logical rigor. Disclaimer, I am not, I'm literally just reading, by the way. So, I am just reading what it says. I'm trying to see if I actually need to read the rest of this. I don't think I have to read the rest of the introduction, so I can actually get right into the actual first book of the Divine Comedy, as it is a combination of 3 books. It is Inferno, Purgatorium, and Paradiso. Anubis. Yes, I know it is boring from the beginning part of it, and the way it is written, it's actually almost like poem style. So I'm going to go ahead and start the Inferno with Canto 1. The dark forest, the hill of difficulty. The panther, the lion, and the wolf. Virgil. Midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself within a dark forest, for the straightforward pathway had been lost. Ah me, how hard a thing it is to say. What was this forest savage, rough and stern, which in the very thought renews the fear? So bitter it is, death is little more. But of the good to treat, which there I found, speak will I of other things I saw there. I cannot well repeat how there I entered, so full was I of slumber at the moment in which I had abandoned the true way. Welcome, Blue Hope Cape. But after I had reached a mountain's foot, at that point where the valley terminated, which had the consternation pierced my heart. Hello, Magellan. Thank you for the follow. I greatly appreciate that. Upward I looked and beheld its shoulders, vested already with that planet's rays, which ladeth others right by every road. Then was the fear a little quieted, that in my heart's lake had endured throughout the night which I had passed so piteously. And even as he who with distressful breath forth issued from the sea upon the shore, turns to the water perilous and gazes, so did my soul, that still was fleeting onward, turn itself back to re-behold the past, which never yet a living person left. Anubis, beware the goddess, for they are just as bad. If not more so sometimes. Give me a moment. I'm gonna need to borrow your charger, honey. I mean, he's not wrong. Agubis. Oh my god. Honey, why? At least show that it's you doing that so she doesn't think that's me.
Well, you're reading. I'm not.
I know, but we just got raided and we have some new people in chat that don't know that it's two of us.
Why do you think I always introduce the both of
I know.
I love you.
I love you too, sweetie. By the way, I am Reina. I am partial owner of the cafe, and we have Sagrel in the background at the moment, and that is my husband. He's the other owner of the cafe.
I'm also the one that's gonna be.
Yes, he is the one that is mostly going to be in chat.
Love you.
I love you too, sweetie. Alright. So did my soul that was still fleeting onward turn itself back to re-behold the past, which never yet a living person left. After my weary body I had rested, the way resumed I on the desert slope, so that the firm foot ever was the lower. And lo, almost where the ascent began, a panther light and swift exceedingly, which with a spotted skin was covered o'er. And never moved she from before my face, nay, rather did impede so much my way, that many times I to return had turned. You did good in your singing, though. I actually was in your stream. So actually, technically, I rated myself. Did I actually? Oh, okay. Yeah, your singing was actually really good, Cubine. I enjoyed that. The time was the beginning of the morning, and up the sun was mounting with those stars, that with him were, what time the love divine. At first in motion set, those beauteous things, so were to me occasion of good hope, and variegated skin of that wild beast, the hour of time, and the delicious season, but not so much, that did not give me fear, a lion's aspect, which appeared to me. He seemed as if against me he were coming, with head uplifted, and with ravenous hunger, so that it seemed the air was afraid of him. Sorry, I need to adjust. Okay. And a she-wolf that, with all hungerings, seemed to be laden in her measurings, and many folk has cause to live forlorn. She brought upon me so much heaviness, with the affright that from her aspect came, that I the hope relinquished of the height. And as he who is willingly acquires, and the time comes that causes him to lose, who weeps in all his thoughts, and is despondent. And such made me that beast withouten pace, which, coming on against me by degrees, thrust me back thither where the sun is silent. While I was rushing downward to the lowland, before mine eyes did one present himself, who seemed from long continued silence hoarse. When I beheld him in the desert vast, have pity on me, unto him I cried, whichever thou art, or shade or real man. He answered me, not man, man once I was, and both my parents were of Lombardy, and Mantons by country both of them. Sub Julio was I born, though it was late, and lived at Rome under the good Augustus, during the time of false and lying gods. A poet was I, and I sang that just, son of Anchises, who came forth from Troy, after the Ilion and superb was burned. But thou, why goest thou back to such annoyance? Why climbest thou not to the mount delectable, which is the source and cause of every joy? Now art thou that Virgilius and the fountain, which spreads broad so wide a river of speech. I make response to him with bashful forehead. Oh, of the other poet's honour and light, avail me the long study and great love that have impelled me to explore thy volume. Thou art my master and my author, through art alone, and the one from whom I took the beautiful style that was done honour to me. Behold the beasts for which I have turned back. Do thou protect me from her, famous sage, for she doth make my veins and pulses tremble. Thee it behooves to take another road, responded he, when he beheld me weeping, if from this savage place thou wouldest escape, because this beast, at which thou criedest out, suffers not any one pass her way, but so doth harass him that she destroys him, and has a nature so malign and ruthless, that never doth she glut her greedy will, and after food is hungrier than before. Many the animals with whom she weds, and more they shall still, until the greyhound comes who shall make her perish in her pain. He shall not feed on either earth or pelf, but upon wisdom and on love and virtue. Twixt Feltro and Feltro shall his nation be. Of thy low Italy shall he be the saviour, on whose account the maid Camilla died. Aurelius, Turnus, Nissus, of their wounds. Though every city shall he hunt her down, until he shall have driven her back to hell, there from whence envy first did let her loose. Therefore I think the judge it for thy best, thou follow me, and I will be thy guide, and lead thee hence through the eternal place, where thou shalt hear the desperate lamentations, shall see the ancient spirits disconsolate, who cry out each one for the second death. And thou shalt see those who contented are within the fire, because they hope to come, whene'er it may be, to the blessed people. To whom then, if thou wishest to ascend, a soul shall be for that I more worthy, with her at my departure I will leave thee. Because that emperor who reigns above, in that I was rebellious to his law, wills that through me none came into his city. He governs everywhere, and there he reigns. There is his city and his lofty throne. O happy he whom thereto he elects. But if the adversary of all evil was courteous, thinking of the high effect that issue would from him, and who and what, to men of intellect unmeet it seems not, for he was of great Rome, and of her empire, in the imperial heaven as father chosen. The which and what, wishing to speak the truth, were established in the holy place wherein sits the successor of the great Peter. Upon this journey, whence thou givest him vaunt, things did he hear, which the occasion were, both of his victory and the papal mantle. Thither went afterward the chosen vessel, to bring back comfort thence unto the faith, which the salvation's way is the beginning. But I, why there come, or who concedes it? I not Aeneas am, I am not Paul, nor I, nor others, think me worthy of it. Therefore, if I resign myself to come, I fear the coming may be ill-advised. Thou art wise, and knowest better than I speak. And as he is, who unwills what he willed, and by new thoughts doth his intention change, so that from his design he quite withdraws. Such I became upon that dark hillside, because in thinking I consumed the emprise, which was so very prominent in the beginning. If I have well thy language understood, replied that shade of the magnanimous, thy soul attainted is with cowardice, which many times a man encumbers so, it turns him back from honored enterprise, as a false sight doth a beast when he is shy. That thou mayest free thee from this apprehension, I'll tell thee why I came, and what I heard, at the first moment when I grieved for thee. Among those was I who are in suspense, and a fair saintly lady called to me. In such a wise I besought her command me. Her eyes were shining brighter than the star, and she began to say, gentle and low, with voice angelical in her own language, O spirit courteous of Mantua, of whom the fame still in the world endures, and shall endure long-lasting as the world, a friend of mine, and not the friend of fortune, upon the desert slope is so impeded, upon his way, that he has turned through terror. And may I fear already be lost, that I too have risen to his succor, from that which I have heard of him in heaven. Bestir thee now, and with thy speech ornate, and with what needful is for his release, assist him so, that I may be consoled. Beatrice am I, who do thee bid go. I come from there, where I would fain return. Love moved me, which compelleth me to speak. When I shall be presented of my Lord, full often I will praise thee unto him. Then paused she, and thereafter I began. O Lady of Virtue, thou alone through whom the human race exceedeth all contained within the heaven that has the lesser circles. So graceful unto me is thy commandment, to obey, if 'twere already done, was late. No farther needest thou ope to me thy wish. But the cause tell me why thou dost not shun the here descending down into the centre, from the vast place thou burnest to return to. Since thou wouldst fain so inwardly discern, briefly I will relate, she answered me, why I am not afraid to enter here. Of those things only should one be afraid, which have the power of doing others harm. Of the rest no, because they are not fearful. God in his mercy such created me, that misery of yours attains me not, nor any flame assails me of this burning. A gentle lady is in heaven who grieves at this impediment to which I send thee, so that stern judgment there above is broken. In her entreaty she besought Lucia, and said, Thy faithful one now stands in need. Of thee and unto thee I recommend him. Lucia, foe of all that is cruel, hastened away, and came unto the place where I was sitting with the ancient Rachel. Beatrice, said she, the true praise of God, why succourest thou not him who loved thee so? For thee he issued from the vulgar herd. Dost thou not hear the pity of his plaint? Dost thou not see the death that combats him? Beside that flood where the ocean has no vaunt? Never were persons in the world so swift to work their weal and to escape their woe, as I, after such words as these were uttered, came hither downward from my blessed seat, confiding in thy dignified discourse, which honors thee and those who listen to it. After she thus spoke unto me, weeping, her shining eyes she turned away, whereby she made me swifter in my coming. And unto thee I came, as she desired. I have delivered thee from the wild beast, which bare this beautiful mountain's short ascent. Why is it then? Why dost thou delay? Why is such baseness bedded in thy heart? Daring and hardihood, why hast thou not? Seeing that thee, ladies, are caring for thee in the court of heaven, and so much good my speech doth promise thee. Even as the flowerets, my nocturnal chill, bowed down and close, when the sun whitens them, uplift themselves all open on their stems. Such I became with my exhausted strength, and such good courage to my heart work there coursed, that I began like an intrepid person. O she compassionate who succored me, and courteous thou, who hast obeyed so soon the words of truth which she addressed to thee. Thou hast my heart so with desire disposed to the adventure with these words of thine, that to my first intent I have returned. Now go, for one sole will is in us both, thou leader, and thou lord, and thou master. Thus said I to him, and when he had moved, I entered on the deep and savage way. How's that the third? I missed a page. So that was Canto 1 and 2. Shut up. I'm gonna smack you. Canto 2 was the descent. So Canto 3 is the gates of hell, the inefficient or indifferent, Pope Celestine 5, the shores of Acheron, Charon, the earthquake, and the swoon. Through me the way is to the city dolent, through me the way is to eternal dole, through me the way among the people lost. Justice incited my sublime creator, created me divine omnipotence, the highest wisdom and the primal love. Before me there were no created things, only eterne, and I eternal last. All hope abandon, ye who enter in. These words in somber color I beheld, written upon the summit of a gate, whence I, their senses, master, hard to me. And he to me, as one experienced. Here all suspicion needs must be abandoned, all cowardice must needs here be extinct. We to the place have come where I have told thee, thou shalt behold the people dolorous, who have foregone the good of intellect. And after he had lain his hand on mine, with joyful mien, whence I was comforted, he led me in among the secret things. Their sights, complaints, and ululations loud resounded through the air without a star, whence I, at the beginning, wept thereat. Languages diverse, horrible dialects, accents of anger, words of agony, and voices high and hoarse with sounds of hand, made up a tumult that goes whirling on, forever in the air, forever black, even as the sand doth when the whirlwind breathes. And I, who had my head with horror bound, said, Master, what is this which now I hear? What folk is this, which seem that by pain so vanquished? And he to me, the miserable mode maintain the melancholy souls for those who lived without an infamy or praise. Commingled are they with that caitiff choir of angels who have not rebelled been, nor faithful were to God, but were for self. The heavens expelled them, not to be less fair, nor them the nevermore abyss receives, for glory none the damned would have from them. And I, O Master, what so grievous is to these that maketh them laments so sore? He answered, I will tell thee very briefly. These have no longer any hope of death, and this blind life of theirs is so debased, they envious are of every other fate. No fame of them the world permits to be. Misericord and justice both disdain them. Let us not speak of them, but look and pass. And I, who looked again, beheld a banner, which whirling round ran on so rapidly, that all pause it seemed to me indignant. And after it came so long a train of people that I ne'er would have believed that ever death so many had undone. When some among them I had recognized, I looked, and I beheld the shade of him who made through cowardice the great refusal. Forthwith I comprehended, and was certain, that this the sect was of the caitiff wretches, hateful to God and to his enemies. These miscreants, who never were alive, were naked, and were strung exceedingly by gadflies and by hornets that there were. These did their faces irrigate with blood, which with their tears commingled at their feet by the disgusting worms was gathered up. And when to gazing further I betook me, people I saw on the great river's bank, once said I, Master, now vouchsafe to me, that I may know who these are, and what law makes them appear so ready to pass over, that I discern artward the dusky light. And he to me, these things shall all be known to thee as soon as we our footsteps stay upon the dismal shore of Archaon. Then with mine eyes, ashamed and downward cast, fearing my words might irksome be to him, from speech refrained I till we reached the river. And lo, towards us come in a boat, an old man, hoary with the hair of eld, crying, Woe upon you, ye souls depraved! Hope never more to look upon the heavens. I come to lead you to the other shore, to the eternal shades in heat and frost. And thou, that yonder standeth, lifting soul, withdraw thee from these people who are dead. But when he saw that I did not withdraw, he said, By other ways, by other ports, thou to the shore shalt come, not here for passage, a lighter vessel needs must carry thee. And unto him the guide, Vex thee not, Charon, it is so willed there where is power to do that which is willed, and farther question is not. Thereat were quieted the fleecy cheeks of him the ferryman of the livid fen, who round about his eyes had wheels of flame. But all those souls who wearied were and naked, their colour changed and gnashed their teeth together, as soon as they had heard those cruel words. God they had blasphemed, and their progenitors, the human race, the place, the time, the seed of their engendering and of their birth. Thereafter altogether they drew back, bitterly weeping, to the accused shore, which waiteth every man who fears not God. Charon the demon, with eyes of gled, beckon to them, collects them all together, beats with his oar whoever lags behind. As in the autumn time the leaves fall off, first one and then the another, till the branch unto the earth surrenders all its spoils. In similar wise the evil seed of Adam throws themselves from the margin one by one, at signals as a bird unto its lure. So they depart across the dusky wave, and ere upon the other side they land, again on this side, in a new troop assembles. My son, the courteous master said to me, all those who perish in the wrath of God here meet together out of every land. And ready are they to pass o'er the river, because celestial justice spurs them on, so that their fear is turned into desire. This way there never passes a good soul, and hence if Charon doth complain of thee, well mayest thou know now what his speech imports. This being finished, all the dusk champagne trembled so violently that of that terror the recollection bathes me still with sweat. The land of tears gave forth a blast of wind, all fulminated with vermilion light, which overmastered in me every sense, and as a man who slept hath seized I fell. Alright, take care, Blue Hope Cape. Canto 4, First Circle, Limbo. Virtuous pagans of the unbaptized, the four poets, Homer, Horace, Ovid, and Lucian, the noble castle of philosophy. Broke the deep lethargy within my head, a heavy thunder, so that I upstarted, like to a person who by force was awakened. And round about I moved my rested eyes, uprisen erect, and steadfastly I gazed, to recognize the place wherein I was. True is it that upon the verge I found me of the abysmal valley Dolores, that gathers thunder of infinite ululations. Obscure, profound it was, and nebulous, so that by fixing on its depths my sight, nothing whatever I discerned therein. Let us descend now into the blind world, began the poet, pallid utterly. I will be first, and thou shalt be second. And I, who as of his colour was aware, said, how shall I come, if thou art afraid? Who art wont to be a comfort of my fears? And he to me, the anguish of the people, who are below here in my face depicts, that pity which for terror thou hath taken. Let us go on, for the long way impels us. Thus he went in, and thus he made me enter, the foremost circle that surrounds the abyss. There, as it seems to me from listening, were lamentations none, but only sighs, that tremble made the everlasting air. And this arose from sorrow without torment, which the crowds had, and many were and great, of infants and of women and of men. To me, the Master good, thou dost not ask, what spirits these, which thou beholdest are? Now will I have thee know, ere thou go farther, that they sinned not, that if they merit had, 'tis not enough, because they had not baptism, which is the portal of the faith thou beholdest. And if they were before Christianity, in the right manner they adored not God, and among such as these I am myself, for such defects, and not for other guilt. Lost are we, and are only so far punished, that without hope we live on in desire. Great grief seized on my heart when this I heard, because some people of much worthiness, I knew, who were in limbo, were suspended. Tell me, my master, tell me, thou my lord, began I with desire of being certain, of that faith which overcometh every error. Came any one by his own merit hence, or by another's who is blessed thereafter? And he, who understood my covert speech, replied, I was a novice in this state, when I saw hither come a mighty one, with sign of victory incornate. Hence he drew forth the shade of the first parent, and that of his son Abel, and of Noah, of Moses the lawgiver, and the obedient, Abraham patriarch, and David king Israel, with his father and his children, and Rachel, for those sake he did so much, and others many, and he made them blessed. And thou must know that earlier than these never were any human spirits saved. We ceased not to advance because he spake, but still were passing onward through the forest, said I, of thick crowded ghosts. Not very far as yet our way had gone, this side the summit, when I saw a fire that overcame a hemisphere of darkness. We were a little distant from it still, but not so far that I in part discerned not that honorable people held that place. O thou who honourest every art and science, who may be these, which such great horror have, that from the fashion of the rest it parts them? And to me, the honourable name, the sound of them above there in thy life, wins grace in heaven, that so advances them. In the meantime, a voice was heard by me, all honour to be the preeminent poet. His shade returns again, that was departed. After the voice had ceased and quiet was, four mighty shades I saw approaching us. Semblance had they not sorrowful nor glad. To say to me began my gracious master, him with the falchion in his hand behold, who comes before three, even as their lord. That one is Homer, poet sovereign. He who comes next is Horace, the satirist. The third is Ovid, the last is Lucian. Because to each of these with me applies the name that solitary voice proclaimed, they do me honour, and in that do well. Thus I beheld assemble the fair school of that lord of song preeminent, who o'er the others like an eagle soars. When they together had discoursed somewhat, they turned to me with signs of salutation, and on beholdeth this, my master smiled. And more of honour still, much more they did me, and in they made me one of their own band, so that the sixth was I, mid so much wit. Thus we went on as far as to the light, saying things 'tis becoming to keep silent, as was the saying of them where I was. We came unto a noble castle's foot, 7 times encompassed with lofty walls, defended round by a fair rivulet. This we passed over even as firm ground. Through portals 7 I entered with these sages. We came into a meadow of fresh verdure. People were there with solemn eyes and slow, of great authority in their countenance. They spake but seldom with gentle voices. Thus we withdrew ourselves upon one side, into an opening luminous and lofty, so that they all of them were visible. Those opposite, upon the green enamel, were pointed out to me, the mighty spirits, whom I have seen. I feel myself exalted. I saw Electra with companions many, mongst whom I knew both Hector and Aeneas, Caesar in armour with Garfalon eyes. I saw Camilla and Penthesilea. On the other side I saw the king Latinus, who with Lavinia his daughter sat. I saw that Brutus who drove Tarquin forth, Lucretia, Julia, Marcia, and Cornelia, and I saw alone, apart, the Saladin. When I lifted up my brows a little, the master I beheld, of those I know, sit with his philosophic family. All gazed upon him, and all do him honor. There I beheld both Socrates and Plato, who near him before the others stand. Democritus, who put the world on chance, Diogenes, Anaxagoras, and Thales, Zeno, Empedocles, and Heraclitus. Did I even pronounce that right?
Herodias?
No. I apologize for my really bad pronunciations.
Heraclitus?
Heraclitus.
Yeah.
Okay. Of quantities I saw a good collector. Height, Dioscorides, and Orpheus saw I, Tully and Livy, and moral Seneca, Euclid, Geometrian, and Ptolemy, Galen, Hippocrates, and Avicenna, Averroes, who the great comet made. I cannot all of them portray in full, because so drives me onward, and long theme, that many times the word comes short in fact. The sixfold company in two divides. Another way my sapient guide conducts me, forth from the quiet to the air that trembles, and to a place I come where nothing shines. Canto 5. The second circle, the wanton Minos, the infernal hurricane. Francesca de Rimini. Thus I descended out of the first circle, down to the second, that less spacious begirds, and so much greater dole, that goads to wailing. There standeth Minos horribly and snarling, examines the transgressions at the entrance, judges and sends according as he girds him. I say that when the spirit evil-born cometh before him, wholly it confesses, and this discriminator of transgressions seeth that place in hell is met for it, girds himself with his tail as many times as grades he wish it should be thrust down. Always before him many of them stand. They go by turns, each one unto the judgment. They speak and hear, and then are downward hurtled. O thou, that to this dolorous hostelry comest, said Minos to me, as he saw me, leaving the practice of so great an office. Look how thou enterest, and in whom thou trustest. Let not the portal's amplitude deceive thee, and unto him my guide, why criest thou too? Do not impede his journey fate ordained. It is so willed there where is power to do that which is willed, and ask no further question. And now begin the dulcim notes to grow, audible unto me, now am I to come, there where much lamentations strike upon me. I came into a place, mute of all light, which bellows as the sea does in a tempest, if by opposing winds is combated. The infernal hurricane that never rests, hurtles the spirits onward in its rapine, rolling them round, and smiting, it molests them. When they arrive before the precipice, there are the shrieks, the plaints, the laments. There they blaspheme the puissance divine. I understood that unto such a torment the carnal malefactors are condemned, who reason subjugate to appetite. As the wings of starlings bear upon them, in the cold season in large band and full, so doth the blast the spirit's maledict. It hither, thither, downward, upward drives them. No hope doth comfort them for evermore, not of repose, but even of lesser pain. And as the cranes go chanting forth their lays, making in air a long line of themselves, so saw I coming, uttering lamentations. Shadows borne onward by the aforesaid stress, whereupon said I, Master, who are those people whom the black air so castigates? At first of the first of those of whom intelligence thou fain wouldest have. Then he said unto me, the Empress was of many languages. To sensual vices she was so abandoned, that lustful she made licit in her law, to remove the blame to which she had been led to. She is Semiramis, of whom we read, that she succeeds Ninus, and was his spouse. She held the land, which now the Sultan rules. The next is she who killed herself for love, and broke faith with the ashes of Sichaeus. Then Cleopatra, the voluptuous. Helen saw I, for whom so many ruthless seasons revolved, and saw the great Achilles, who at the last hour combated with love. Paris I saw, Tristan, and more than 1,000 shades did he name and point out with his finger, whom love had separated from our life. After that I listened to my teacher, naming the dames of eld and cavaliers. Pity prevailed, and I was nigh bewildered. And I began, O poet willingly, speak would I to those two who go together, and seem upon the wind to be so light. And he to me, Thou'lt mark, when they shall be nearer to us, and then do thou implore them, by love which leadeth them, and they will come. Soon as the wind in our direction sways them, my voice uplift I, O ye weary souls, come speak to us, if no one interdicts it. As turtle doves, called onward by desire, with open and steady wings to the sweet nest, fly through the air by their volition borne. So came they from the band where Dido is, approaching us athwart the air malign. So strong was the affectionate appeal. O living creature gracious and benignant, who visiting goeth through the purple air, us who have stained the world incarnate. If the King of the universe our friend, we would pray unto him to give thee peace, since thou hast pity on our woe perverse, of what it pleases thee to hear and speak, that we will hear and we will speak to you, while silent is the wind as it is now. Sitteth the city wherein I was born, upon the seashore where the Po descends, to rest in peace in all his retinue. Love that on gentle heart doth swiftly seized this man for the person beautiful, that was taken from me, and still the mode offends me. Love that exempts no one beloved from loving, seized me with pleasure of this man so strongly, that, as thou seest, it doth not yet desert me. Love has conducted us unto one death. Canea waneth him who quenched our life. These words were borne along from them to us. As soon as I had heard those souls tormented, I bowed my face, and so long held it down, until the poet said to me, What thinkest? When I made answer, I began, Alas, how many pleasant thoughts, how much desire, conducted these unto the Dolius pass. Then unto them I turned me, and I spake, and I began, thine agonies, Francesca, sad and compassionate, to weeping make me. But tell me, at the time of those sweet sighs, by what and in what manner love conceded, that you should know your dubious desires? And she to me, there is no greater sorrow than the mindful of the happy time, in misery, and that thine teacher knows. But if to recognize the earliest root of love in us thou hast so great desire, I will do even as he who weeps and speaks. One day we reading were for our delight of Launcelot, how love did him enthrall. Alone we were, and without any fear. Full many a time our eyes draw together, that reading, and drove the color from our faces. But one point only was it that o'ercame us, when as we read of much longed for smile, being by such a noble lover kissed, this one who ne'er from me shall be divided, kissed me upon the mouth all palpitating. Galeotto was the book, and he who wrote it. That day no further did we read therein, and all the while one spirit uttered this. The other one did weep so, that, for pity, I swooned away as if I had been dying, and fell, even as a dead body falls. Canto 6, the third circle, the gluttonous Cerberus, the eternal rain, Diaco of Florence. At the return of consciousness, that closed before the pity of those two relations, which utterly with sadness had confused me, new torments I behold, and new tormented, around me whichsoever way I move, and whichsoever way I turn and gaze. In the third circle am I of the rain, eternal, maledict, and cold and heavy, its law and quality are never new. Huge hail and water sombre-hued, and snow, athwart and tenebrous air poured down amin. Noisome the earth is that receiveth this. Cerberus, monster cruel and uncouth, with his 3 gullets like a dog is barking over the people that are there submerged. Red eyes he has, an uncandious beard and black, and belly large, and armed with claws his hands. He rends the spirits, flays, and quarters them. Howl and rain maketh them like unto dogs. One side they make a shelter for the other. Oft turn themselves the wretched reprobates. When Cerberus perceives us, the great worm, his mouth he opens and displays his tusks. Not a limb he had he that was motionless. And my conductor, with his spans extended, took of the earth, and with his fist well filled he threw it into those rapacious gullets, such as the dog is who by barking caves, and quiet grows soon as his food he gnaws, for to devour it but thinks and struggles. The like become more muzzles filth begrimed of Cerberus the demon, who so thunders over the souls that they would fain be deaf. We passed across the shadows, which subdues the heavy rainstorms, and we placed our feet upon their vanity that person seems. They were all lying prone upon the earth, excepting one, who sat upright as soon as he beheld us passing on before him. Thou that art conducted through this hell, he said to me, recall me, if thou canst. Thyself wast made before I was unmade. And I to him, the anguish which thou hast, perhaps doth draw thee out of my remembrance, so that it seems not I have ever seen thee. But tell me who thou art, that in so doleful a place art put, and in such punishment, if some are greater, none is so displeasing. And he said, and he to me, thy city which is full of envy, so that now the sack runs over, held me within it the life serene, whose citizens were wont to call me Siaco, for the pernicious sin of gluttony. I, as thou seest, am battered by this reign, and I, sad soul, am not the only one, for all these suffer the like penalty, for the like sin. The word no more he spake. I answered him, Siaco, thy wretchedness weighs on me, so that it would Siaco, thy wretchedness weighs on me, so that it to weep invites me. But tell me, if thou knowest, to what shall come the citizens of the divided city, if any there be just, and the occasion. Tell me why so much discord has assailed it. And he to me, they, after long contention, will come to bloodshed, and the rustic party will drive the other out with much offence. And afterwards behooves it this one fall within 3 suns, and rise again the other, by force of him who now is on the coast. High will it hold its forehead a long while, keeping the other under heavy burdens. However it weeps thereat, and is indignant. The just are two, and are not understood there. Envy and arrogance and avarice are the 3 sparks that have all hearts enkindled. Here ended he his tearful utterance, and I to him, I wish thee skill to teach me, and make a gift to me of further speech. Farinata and Tagario, once so worthy, Jacopo Rusticucci, Arrigo and Mosca, and others who on good deeds set their thoughts, say they were, and cause that I may know them, for great desire constraineth me to learn, if heaven doth sweeten them, or hell envenom. And he, there among the blacker souls, a different sin downweighs them to the bottom, if thou so far descendeth thou canst see them. But when thou art again in the sweet world, I pray thee to the mind of others bring me. No more I tell thee, and no more I answer. Then he straightforward eyes he turned askance, eyed me a little, and then bowed his head. He fell therewithin prone to the other blind. And the guide said to me, he wakes no more, beside the sound of the angelic trumpet. Wind shall approach the hostile protonate. Each one shall find again his dismal tomb, shall reassume his flesh and his own figure, shall hear what through eternity re-echoes. So he passed onward o'er the filthy mixture of shadows and of rain with footsteps slow, touching a little of the future's life. Wherefore I said, Master, these torments here, will they increase after the mighty sentence, or lesser be, or will they be as burning? And to me, he said, return unto thy science, which wills that as the thing more perfect is, the more it feels of pleasure and of pain. Albeit that this people maledict to true perfection never can attain, hereafter more than now they look to be. Round in a circle by the road we went, speaking much more, which I do not repeat. We came unto the point where the descent is. There I found Pledis, the great enemy. Canto 7, the 4th circle, the avaricious and the prodigal, Plutus, Fortune and her wheel, the fifth circle, the irascible, the irascible and the sullen. Pape Satan, Alpe. Thus Plutus with his clucking voice began, and the benignant sage, who all things knew, said to encourage me, let not thy fear harm thee, for any power that he may have shall not prevent thy going down this crag. Then he turned round unto the bloated lip, and said, be silent, thou accursed wolf, consume within thyself with thine own rage. Not causeless is this journey to the abyss. Thus is willing on high, where Michael wrought vengeance upon the proud adultery. Even as the sails inflated by the wind, involved together, fall when snaps the mast, so fell the cruel monster to the earth. Thus we descended to the fourth chasm, gaining still farther on the dulsome shore, which all the woe of the universe ensacks. Justice of God, ah, who heaps upon so many new toils and suffering as I beheld? And why doth our transgressions waste us so? As doth the billow where the Tartarus, the breaks itself on that which it encounters, so here the folk must dance their round clay. Here I saw people more than elsewhere, many, on one side and on the other, with great howls rolling weights forward by main force of chest. They clashed together, and then at that point each one turned backward, rolling retrograde, crying, why keepest, and why squanderest thou? Thus they returned along the lurid circle, on either hand onto the opposite point, shouting their shameful metre evermore. Then each, when he arrived there, wheeled about through his half-circle to another joust, and I, who had my heart pierced as it were, exclaimed, my master, now declare to me what people these are, and if all were clerks, these shaven crowns upon the left of us. And he to me, all of them were asquint, and intellect in their first life, so much that there with measure they no spending made. Clearly enough their voices bark it forth, whene'er they reach the 2 points of the circle, where sunders them the opposite defect. Clerks those who no hairy covering have on the head, and popes and cardinals, in whom doth avarice practice it exceeds. And I, my master, among such as these, I ought forsooth to recognize some few, who were infected with this maladies. And he to me, vain thought thou earnest, the undiscerning life which made them sordid, now makes them unto all discernment dim. Forever shall they come to these 2 buddings, these from the sepulchre shall rise again, with the fist closed, and these the tresses shorn, ill-giving and ill-keeping the fair world, having taken from them, to place them in this scuffle, where it be no words adorn I for it. Now canst thou, son, behold the transient farce of goods that are committed unto fortune, for which the human race each other buffet. For all the gold that is beneath the moon, or ever has been, of these weary souls, could never make a single one repose. Master, I said to him, thou tell me also, what is this fortune that thou speakest of, and has the world's goods so within its clutches? And he to me, O creature's imbecile, what ignorance is this which doth beset you? Now will have 3 learn I will have thee learn my judgment of her. He whose omniscience everything transcends, and heavens created, and gave who should guide them, that every part to every part may shine, distributing the light in equal measure. He... Oh, hey Kibbles, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. Oh, gifted to Copy Ninja Ryu. Awesome. Mm-hmm.
Do you need anything else?
I was just taking a drink, sweetie.
Is that it? I'm just...
I know, I appreciate it. This is just a very difficult read with how it's set up. Distributing the light in equal measure, he in like manner to the mundane splendors ordained a general ministress and guide, that she might change at times the empty treasures from race to race, from one blood to another, beyond resistance of all human wisdom. Therefore one people triumphs, and another languishes in punishment of her judgment, which hidden is, as in the grass is serpent. Your knowledge has no counterstand against her. She makes provision, judges, and pursues her governance as theirs the other gods. Her permutations have not any truce. Necessity makes her precipice, so often cometh who his turn obtains. And this is she who is so crucified, even by those who ought give her praise, giving her blame amiss and bad repute. But she is blissful, and she hears it not. Among the other primal creatures gladsome, she turns her sphere, and blissful she rejoices. Let us descend now unto greater woe. Already sinks each star that was ascending when I set out, and loitering is forbidden. We cross the circle unto the other bank, near a fount that boils and pours itself along a gully that runs out of it. The water was more sombre far than purse, and we, in company with the dusky waves, made entrance downward by a path uncouth. A marsh it makes, which has the name of Styx, this tristful brooklet, when it has descended down to the foot of the malign grey shores. And I, who stood intent upon beholding, saw people mud bespent in that lagoon, all of them naked and with angry look. They smote each other not alone with hands, but with the head and with the breast and feet, tearing each other piecemeal with their teeth. Said the good master, Son, thou now beholdest the souls of those whom anger overcame, and likewise I would have thee know for certain, beneath the water people are who sigh, and make this water bubble at the surface, as the eye tells thee whatsoever it turns. Fixed in the mire, they say, we sullen were in the sweet air, which by the sun is gladdened, bearing within ourselves the sluggish reek. Now we are sullen in the stable mire. This hymn do they keep gurgling in their throats, for with unbroken words they cannot say it. Thus we went circling round the filthy fen, and great arc twixt the dry bank and the swamp, with eyes turned unto those who gorge the mire. Unto the foot of a tower we came at last. Canto 8. Good night, Kibbles. Legis, Filippo Argenti, the gate of the city of Dis. I say, continuing, that long before we to the foot of that high tower had come, our eyes went upward to the summit of it. By reasons of two flamlets we saw a place there, and from afar another answered them. so far that hardly could the eye attain it, and to the sea of all discernment turned. I said, What saith this? And what respondeth that other fire? And who are they that made it? And he to me, Across the turbid waves, what is expected thou canst now discern. It reek of the morass conceals it not. Ord never shot an arrow from itself, that sped away athwart the air so soft, as I beheld a very little boat come o'er the water towards us at the moment, under the guidance of a single pilot, who shouted, Now art thou arrived, fell soul! Phlagius, Phlagius, thou criest out in vain. For this once, said my lord, thou shalt not have us longer than the passing of the slough. As he who listens in some deceit that that has been done to him, and then resents it, such became Phlagus in the gathered wrath. My guide descended down into the boat, and then he made me enter after him, and only when I entered seemed it laden. Soon as the guide and I were in the boat, the antique prow goes on its way, dividing more of the water than 'tis wont with others. While we were running through the dead canal, uprose in front of me one full of mire, and said, Who art thou that comest ere this hour? And I to him, Although I come, I stay not. But who art thou that hast become so squalid? Thou seest that I am one who weeps, he answered. And I to him, With weeping and with wailing, thou spirit maledict, do thou remain, for thee I know, thou art all defiled. Then stretched he both hand unto the boat, whereat my wary master thrust him back, saying, Away there with the other dogs. Thereafter with arms he clasped my neck, he kissed my face, and said, Disdainful soul, blessed be she who bore thee in her bosom. That was an arrogant person in the world. Goodness is none that decks his memory, so likewise here his shade is furious. How many are esteemed great kings up there, who here shall be like unto swine in mire, leaving behind them horrible dispraises. And I, my master, much should I be pleased if I could see him spoused into this broth, before we issue forth out of the lake. And he to me, Ere unto thee the shore reveal itself, thou shalt be satisfied. Such a desire 'tis meet thou shouldn't enjoy. A little after that, I saw such havoc made of him by the people of the mire, that still I praise and thank my God for it. They all were shouting at Filippo Argentine, and that exasperate spirit Florentine turned round upon himself with his own teeth. We left him there, and more of him I tell not, but on mine ears there smote a lamentation, whence forward I intend unbar mine eyes. And the good master said, Even now, my son, the city draweth near, whose name is Dis, with the grave citizens, with the great throng. And I, its musks already, master, clearly within the valley I discern, vermilion, as if issuing from the fire. They were, and he to me, the fire eternal, that kindles them within, makes them look red, as though beholdeth in this nether hell. Then we arrive within the moats profound, the circumvallate that disconsolate city. The walls appeared to me to be of iron. Not without making first a circuit wide, we came unto a place where loud the pilot cried out to us, Debark, here is the entrance. More than 1,000 at the gates I saw, out of the heavens rained down, who angrily were saying, "Who is this that without death goes through the kingdom of the people dead?" And my sagacious master made a sign of wishing secretly to speak with them. A little, then they quelled their great disdain, and said, "Come thou alone, and he be gone, who has so boldly entered these dominions. Let him return alone by his mad road. Try, if he can, for thou shalt here remain, who hast escorted him through such dark regions." Think, reader, if I was discomforted. An utterance of the accursed words, for never return here I believed. O my dear God, who more than 7 times hast rendered me security, and draws me from imminent peril that before me stood. Do not desert me, said I, thus undone, and if the going farther be denied us, let us retrace our steps together swiftly. And that Lord, who had led me thitherward, said unto me, "Fear not, because our passage none can take from us, it by such is given." I have to check something. You guys still hear me? Okay. But here await me, in thy weary spirit, comfort and nourish with a better hope. For in this nether world I will not leave thee, so onward goes, and there abandons me. My father sweet, and I remain in doubt, for no and yes within my head contend. I could not hear what he proposed to them, but with them there he did not linger long, ere each within in rivalous ran back. They closed the portals, those our adversaries, O my lord's breast, who has remained without, and turned to me with footsteps far between. His eyes cast down, his forehead shorn, had he of all its boldness, and he said with sighs, "Who has denied to me the dolesome houses, and unto me, thou, because I am angry, fear not, for I will conquer the trial, whatever for defense within be planned." This arrogance of theirs is nothing new, for once they used it at less secret gate, which finds itself without a fastening still. O'er it didst thou behold the dead inscription, and now this side of it descends the steep, passing across the circles without escort. One by whose means the city shall be opened. Canto 9. The Furies and Medusa, the Angel, the City of Dis, the Sixth Circle. Arisarchus. That he which cowardice brought out on me, beholding my conductor backward turn, sooner repressed within him his new colour. He stopped attentive, like a man who listens, because the eye could not conduct him far, through the black air and through the heavy fog. Still it behooves us to win the fight. Begin he, else such offered us herself. Oh how I long that some one here arrive. Well I perceived, as soon as the beginning, he covered up with what came afterward. that they were words quite different from the first, but nonetheless his saying gave me fear, because I carried out the broken phrase, perhaps to a worse meaning than he had. Into this bottom of the doleful conch doth any error descend from the first grade, which for its pain has only hope cut off? This question put I, and he answered me. Seldom it comes to pass that one of us maketh the journey upon which I go. True is it, once before here below, was conjured by the pitiless Erichtho, who summoned back the shades unto their bodies. Naked of me short while the flesh had been, before within that wall she made me enter, to bring a spirit from the circle of Judas. That is the lowest region and the darkest, the farthest from the heaven which circles all. Well know I the way, therefore be reassured. This fen, which a proteous stench exhales, encompasses about the city Dolent, where now we cannot enter without anger. And more, he said, but not in mind I have it, because mine eye had altogether drawn me towards the high tower with the red flaming summit, where in a moment I saw swift uprisen the three infernal furies stained with blood, who had the limbs of women and of their mine, and with the greenest hydras their vigor, small serpents and ceres wear their tresses, within their horrid temples were entwined. And he who well the handmaidens of the Queen of everlasting lamentations knew, said unto me, Behold the fierce Erin's. This is Megara on the left-hand side, she who is weeping on the right, Alecto. Tisiphone is between them. And then was silence. Each one her breast was rending with her nails. They beat them with their palms, and cried so loud, so that I for dread pressed close unto the poet. Medusa come, so we to stone will change him, all shouting looking down. In evil hour avenged we not on Theseus his assault. Turn thyself round, and keep thine eyes close shut, for if the Gorgon appear, and thou shouldst see it, no more returning upward would there be. Thus said the master, and he turned me round himself, and thrust unto my hands, so far as not to blind me with his own. O ye who have undistempered intellects, observe the doctrine and conceal itself beneath the veil of the mysterious verses. And now there came across the turbid waves the clangor of a sound with terror fraught, because of which both the margins trembled. Not otherwise it was than of a wind, impetuous on account of adverse heats, that smites the forest, and, without restraint, the branches rend, beats down, and bears away. And my model borked. There we go. The branches rends, beats down, and bears away. Right onward, laden with dust, it goes superb. And puts into flight the wild beasts and the shepherds. Mine eyes he's loosened and said, Direct the nerve of vision now along the ancient foam. There yonder where the smoke is most intense, even as the frogs before the hostile serpent across the water scatter all abroad, until each one is huddled in the earth. More than 1,000 ruined souls I saw, thus fleeting from before one who on foot was passing o'er the Styx with souls unwet. From off his face he fanned the unctuous air, waving his left hand oft in front of him, and only with that anguish seemed he weary, while I perceived one sent from heaven was he, and to the master turned, and he made sign that I should stand quiet and bow before him. Ah, how disdainful he appeared to me. He reached the gate, and with a little rod he opened it, for there was no resistance. O banished out of heaven, people despised, thus he began upon the horrid threshold. Whence is the arrogant within you crouched? Wherefore recalcitrate against that will, from which the end can never be cut off, and which has many times increased your pain? What helpeth it to butt against the fates, were Cerberus, if you remember well, for that still bears his chin and gullet peeled. Then he returned along the miry road, and spake no words to us, but had the look of one whom the other care constrains and gulls. Then that of him who his presence is, and we our feet directed toward the city, and after those holy words all confident. Within we entered without any contest, and I, who inclination had to see what the condition such a fortress holds. As soon as I was within, cast round mine eyes, and see on every hand an ample plain, full of distress and torment terrible, even as in Arles, where stagnant grows the Rhone, even as Apollo near to the Morinaro, that shuts in Italy and bathes its borders. The sepulchres make all the place uneven, so likewise did they there on every side, saving that there the manner was more better, for flame between the sepulchres were scattered, by which they so intensely heated were, that iron more so asks not any art. All of their coverings uplifted were, and from them issued forth such dire laments. Soon seemed they of the wretched and tormented. And I, my master, what are all those people who, having sepulchre within these tombs, make themselves audible by doleful sighs? And he to me, here are the Arisarchs, where their disciples of all sects, and much more than thou thinkest laden are the tombs. Here like together with its like is buried, and more and less the monuments are heated, and when he to the right had turned we passed, between the torments and high parapets. Canto 10. Serenata and Cavalcete de Cavalcante. Discourse of the knowledge of the damned. Now onward goes, along a narrow path, between the torments and the city wall. My master and I follow his back. O power supreme, that through these impetuous circles turnest me, I began. As pleases thee, speak to me, and my longings satisfy. The people who are laying in these tombs, might they have seen, already are uplifted, the covers all, and no one keepeth guard? And he to me, they all will be closed up, when the Josaphat they shall return, here with the bodies they have left above. Their cemetery have upon this side, where Epicurus, all his followers, who with the body mortal make the soul. But in the question thou doth put to me, within here shalt thou soon be satisfied, and likewise in the wish thou keepest silent. And I, good leader, but I keep concealed from thee my heart, that I may speak the less. Nor only now hast thou thereto disposed me. O Tuscan, thou who through the city of fire goest live, thus speaking modestly, be pleased to stay thy footsteps in this place. Thy mode of speaking makes thee manifest, a native of the noble fatherland, to which perhaps I too molestful was. Upon a sudden issued forth this sound, from out of one of the tombs, wherefore I pressed, fearing, a little nearer to my leader. And unto me he said, Turn thee, what dost thou? Behold there Farinata, who has arisen. From the waist upwards, wholly shalt thou see him. I had already fixed mine eyes upon him, and he rose erect, with breast in front, and as if held he had in great despite, and with courageous hands and prompt my leader, thrust me between the sepulchres between him, exclaiming, Let thy words explicit be. As soon as I was at the foot of his tomb, somewhat he eyed me, and, as if disdainful, then asked of me, Who were thine ancestors? I, who, desirous of obeying was, concealed it not, but all revealed to him, whereat he raised a brow a little upward. Then said he, fiercely adverse have they been to me, and my fathers, and my party, so that 2 several times I scattered them. If they were banished, they returned on all sides, I answered him, the first time and the second, but yours have not acquired that art all right. Then there arose upon the sight, uncovered down to the chin, a shadow at his side. I think that he had risen on his knees. Round me he gazed, as if solitude. He had to see if someone else were with me, but after his suspicion was all spent, weeping, he said to me, If through this blind prison thou goest by loftiness of genius, where is my son? And why is he not with thee? And I to him, I come not of myself. He who is waiting yonder leads me here, whom in disdain perhaps your Guido had. His language and the mode of punishment already unto me had read his name. On the account my answer was so full. Upstarting suddenly, he cried out, How saidest thou? He had? Is he not still alive? Does not the sweet light strike upon his eyes? When he became aware of some delay, which I before my answer made, supine he fell again, and forth appeared no more. But the other, magnanimous, at whose desire I had remained, did not his aspect change, neither his neck moved, nor bent his side. And if, continuing his first discourse, they have that art, he said, not learned aright, that more tormenteth me than doth his bed. But 50 times shall not rekindled he the countenance of the lady who reigns here, ere thou shalt know how heavy is that art, and as thou wouldest to be the sweet world return, stay why that people is so pitiless against my race in each one of its laws. Whence I to him, the slaughter and the great carnage, which have been crimson stained the Arbia, because such orisons in our temple to be made. After his head he with a sigh had shaken, there I was not alone, he said, nor surely without a cause had with the others moved. But there I was alone, where everyone consented to the laying waste of Florence, he who defended her with open face. Ah, so hereafter may your seed repose, I him entreated. Solve for me that knot, which has entangled my conceptions here. It seems that you conceive, if I hear rightly, beforehand whatsoever time brings with it, and in the present have another mode. We see, like those who have imperfect sight, the things, he said, that distant are from us. So much still shines on us the sovereign ruler. When they draw near or are, is wholly vain, our intellect, and if none brings it to us, not anything know of we your human state. Hence thou canst understand that wholly dead will be our knowledge from the moment when the portal of the future shall be closed. Then I, as if compunctious for my fault, said, Now then, you will tell the fallen one that still his son is with the living joined. And if just now, in answering, I was dumb, tell him I did it because I was thinking already of the error you had solved me. And now my master was recalling me, wherefore more eagerly I prayed the spirit, that he would tell me who was with him there. He said, With more than 1,000 here I lie. Within here is the second Frederick, and the cardinal, and the rest I speak not. Thereon he hid himself, and I towards the ancient poet turned my steps, reflecting upon that saying which seemed hostile to me. He moved along, and afterward, thus going, he said to me, Why art thou so bewildered? And I in his inquiries satisfied him. Let memory preserve what thou hast heard against thyself. That sage commanded me, and now I attend here. And he raised his finger. When thou shalt be before the radiance sweet of her whose beauteous eyes all things behold, from her thou'lt know the journey of thy life. Unto the left hand then he turned his feet. We left the wall and went towards the middle, along a path that strikes into a valley, which even up there unpleasant made its stench. And for now, I am actually going to end that here, and let's see. A little bit, because I'm just got it. I am just a tad bit dizzy, guys. I worked a little earlier today. So, we're going to raid Jenga. Thank you everybody who was here and listened in. And yeah. We're going to be streaming tomorrow. We're going to play Smash or Pass for the Fate 4th Ascension characters. So if you guys are interested in that, we will see you then. And have a good night.